Hello and welcome to Mary Mwangi official YouTube channel. My name is Mary Mwangi. Our guest today is a man who was once in the streets, but today he's an author and an entrepreneur. Now I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, hello. My name is MBUGUA. As Mary have said, I have a story that I know will encourage you. I'm born again and I'm married. I'm a father of two. I'm from Nakuru, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve, and we're happy to have you. You're from Nakuru. Where exactly in Nakuru?
Okay, I'm from Nakuru, Lanetu Moja sub-county, a village called Moronyo. A village boy who is now doing stuff in the city by the grace of God.
So you schooled in Moronyo?
Yeah, I started my life in Moronyo. I was born and brought up from Moronyo village. I went to Kamoronyo Nursery School. Then I went to Kamoronyo Primary School. So it's Kamoronya.
In Kamoronyo village.
In Kamoronyo village.
Great.
Yes.
How was your secondary life in secondary school?
Okay. Now, my life started just the ordinary village boy. We were not privileged like, in the village there are people who enjoy better life. Yeah. Those who are from, whose parents are teachers, or maybe you have a portion mill or a shop, so your life will be a well-organized life. But now for us, we had the normal life. Then in primary school, around class 5, things started changing up. My parents started suffering, having some problems here and there financially, and this really affected us. So it also affected my performance. That by the time we were doing KCP, because most of the time I was not in school, we were not able to get the basic needs, sometimes going without food. It affected my results. And so I got a grade, I don't know whether it's okay I share here. By then it was that was 1997. I scored 366 out of 700. Unfortunately, I didn't get any admission to any high school. Okay. And so when other people joined Form 1, I was left at home. But by the grace of God, a friend to my father went looking for a school, and he got 2 admissions. So I joined Form 1 a bit late. Okay. That is in March, mid-March, when others had already joined around. I think it is mid-January or towards the end of January.
So you got 2 admissions.
Yes.
For provincial school, district school?
Oh no, they are not even district. There are those schools you wouldn't want to mention. Okay. One was a new school. Actually, it started that year. Okay. So they were looking for N1. So it's called Jemus Secondary School. Then coincidentally, the same week, he got another one from Bavuni High School. There was a vacancy. And so I was lucky to get the opportunity. But back then, Bavuni School was a very poor performing school. Actually, parents will tell you, Usposoma, you'll go to Bavuni, because it was not a good school at all. So I joined Bavuni a bit late. Okay. And that's where, again, my other problems started.
So now you have come from a poor family.
Yeah. Did
you manage to get school fees and the uniform and any other expenses?
Now, by the time I was in class 8 and there were problems, I would say even there was this process of initiation. Now from where now boys go through initiation, my parents couldn't afford. Wow. So I had to do something we call kereyo. You go collect maize, from other people's farms. I sold, and I was able to get the money to be able to go through the initiation process. Then joining Form 1, because again there was no money, still I had some money left from the career thing. And so we went to a market called Wangoho Market, and I was able to get one trouser, one shirt, and a very baggy sweater, mtumba sweater, With about 400 or 500, I got a shoe, shirt, trouser, you know, the whole uniform.
Okay.
And so I joined the, Form 1 looking funny without school fees. I think my mother had some few hundreds or even a thousand shillings. And so we started life. You were late, you reported school late, you don't have school fees, your self-esteem is low because even of how you dressed. I had a problem with because you were late, even the Form 1s want to monorize you.
Yeah.
So they are like doing a revenge. So there was bullying from Form 2s and Form 1s. So I found myself alone with low self-esteem. You are late to school, you don't know how things are, so you just look strange. So it was a bad moment for me.
Okay, after you faced all that bullying, did you report either to the parent or to the teacher?
Now, to me, I looked confused. I was not able to face the teachers because I was also fearing them. Remember, this is a transition from primary school to high school. So you don't know how in high school you're supposed to behave. And again, you're feeling, I'm supposed to man up, I'm a man. So I'm not supposed to go venting, sharing, talking about my emotions and how I'm feeling. So at home, I will be alone, seated, confused, not sharing to anyone. Also in school, again, there was no one to share with. So most of the time I was in class alone. And again, because of poverty, like every other week, we were sent home for school fees. You are in Form 1, you've joined this week, next week you're home for school fees. And again in school, there was, we were given meal cards. So for you to take lunch, you had to use a meal card. For you to get a meal card, you must have cleared your school fees. Now, I was not taking lunch in school. So you can look at a lot of these problems. We could not afford even toothpaste or even shoe polish. So you just look, I just looked and kept. Sometimes I could not afford even a Bible pen. So I just looked funny and confused, and sometimes teachers would sympathize. I remember one physics teacher asking me, kijana, wewe ulitoka wapi? Ulitoka shimo gani? Your physics I got 0%. You look funny, no, you're not eating, you look unkept and all that. So umetoka shimo gani? So it really affected my self-esteem.
And did your parents notice that there's a change?
Well, from the beginning, because there was a problem at home.
Yeah.
And, in such a case, I had also some sisters. One sister by then was in class 7. The other one was in class 5. And, also they are growing. There are also other needs that will attract more attention, like for a lady, for example. So my parents were also confused. I remember my mother would even run away, go for a whole week. Yeah. Only to realize that she's somewhere praying. There's a place in Menengai Kreta called Mizpah. So she would go there for a whole week in the bush, sleep in the bush, just praying. When she come back and look at the problem, sometimes we realized even she was now going to depression. You'll find her talking alone.
A mother will always be a mother.
Yes. But now my father, again, for a man, when you're not able to support your family, now that also affects you. So most of the men will keep quiet. They will not talk to you. If you tell them hakuna chakula, there is no food, he will not talk. He'll just keep quiet because he'll now wonder, what do I do? He's a man. Sometimes he'll just walk away and come at night and sleep. Nowadays, after growing up, I've come to realize the reason why my dad was behaving that way is because there is no money. He's not able to provide for the family. So it was a very difficult moment for everyone at home. My parents, that process of change doesn't happen at once. Yeah. It's gradual, step by step. So unless you're close to your son or daughter, you will not realize that he's changing. Now, unfortunately, because of the problems and challenges, they never realize that now our son is having a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
At what time did you feel like enough is enough?
Now, towards the end of Form 1, it was bad. It was pathetic. Now, and I realized when other men are dating, having girlfriends, for me, no any girlfriend would like wanted to associate with me. Like, this guy, I'm a chapa, you just look funny, he's confused. And for your information, in first term, I was the last student in class. I was number 39 out of 39. Now, in second term, I was also the last student. Now, in that term, I was number 36 out of 38. I defeated only 2 people, and one of the lady I defeated is because she only did 2 exams, and she had a miscarriage, so she was kicked out of school. So I was lucky at least to defeat somebody or to defeat 2 people. Now things were tough. Now around Form 1 in second term, because of the low self-esteem, some guys started taking advantage of it. I was trying to hide myself. There were some guys, under some guys in Form 3, they were criminals. So I would easily hide under them, and they would use me now to peddle drugs to school because I looked very innocent. So in Form 2, in second term Form 1, I started now being used to bring drugs in school, and also a lot of other crime issues. We would get out of school, go do some stuff out there, again without the teachers realizing. My parents didn't mind whether I go to school or not. They didn't mind whether I have homework, whether I have books, because they concentrated on other things which to them were more important than the welfare of their son. Again, it's because of the problem. So by the end of Form 1, now I had 3 problems. Number 1, low self-esteem, poverty problems. Again, the school fees had accumulated so much that now there was no need to continue with such studies. Again, my poor performance, and then the drugs issues.
On drug issues, where did you get money or the capital to buy the drugs?
At this point, I was not the one buying. It was fairing. So you'll be told, Gioni, you go to this person, I'll be given the drugs, go home with them, then in the morning come with them to school. Also, sometimes I would wake up very early in the morning. By 5 a.m. in a place called Mokoyo, where we were getting the bangi, then take them to these guys. And again, maybe to mention this, unfortunately, all the 4 guys who were using me to peddle drug to school, they all died through different circumstances.
Crime?
One was through crime, so he was murdered. The other one, they were involved in a case of robbery with violence in Mombasa. He was killed. Then 2 of them became touts, manambas, conductors. So they were involved. You remember some years back, there was this accident involving the bus called Shaggy. Yeah, so they were tout conductors in that bus, so they also died.
Something else, you mentioned that you used to go to Murunyu Center to get the bangi or the drug.
Yeah.
Who was selling the drugs? Are they neighbors? Are they the people you know? Now that you're raised in that center and you're buying from the same center, who was selling the drugs?
They are people well known by the community around. And unfortunately, one of them was neighboring the chief's residence. But now they were not taking any step. And through that source of bangi, a lot of young men were affected. And we have lost a lot of young men in that area just because of easy access to drugs, majorly bangi. Yeah.
Now, from there, what happened? Now, you have started trafficking drugs to school and involving yourself into other crime activities. At what point do you feel like, how was the performance in school? And I'm sure now the teachers had started noticing that you're in the team.
Now, again, it happened gradually, step by step. For me, I was feeling fine. You're feeling now on top of the game. You're the real thing now. And because of this being associated with drugs, now those people, the young men who had the criminal aspect started becoming now attracted to me. So I started having a certain gang now, an atmosphere. And then there are people now you're influencing because they are relying on you. And so because of this, they led me now to other habits, like now getting out of school anytime. I couldn't fear teachers. Sometimes I could wake up and feel leo nitaenda shule saa mbili, and you're okay if you beat me. And then at some point, the headmaster then, Mr. Gatimo, and the deputy, Mr. Moira, realized that some of these young men, you don't need to beat them. Because wamezoea kiboko, even if you beat them 100 strokes, tomorrow they will repeat the same mistake. So every other day, you would find me in school now doing punishments. Like there was a time you'll be told to dig a pit, a train, 6 foot deep. Then after digging it, you cover it. Now digging a 6 foot deep latrine, it will take you a whole week. You cover it. Next week, I'm in another mistake. Again, you're there digging and doing different kinds of work. So I even looked like a worker in school, because you are no longer in class. It's just punishment, punishment. In class, nothing. Even CRE was a problem. You know, CRE looks like one of the easiest subjects.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read Elijah, I don't know, Moses' commandments and all that, because your mind is totally far away. Now, there's this time I got 0% in physics, 0% in mathematics, and I think biology I got 12% or so. And I looked, some of the students were wondering, who is this now? Who ni mjinga? You know, you don't look like stupid, but you look more than stupid now. Yeah.
Now, at what time did you feel like what you're doing is not right?
To me, what happened now, when we closed school in that term, during that time, that December, now I think my mind now got spoiled up, kabisa, in a way that now I didn't go back to school in Form 2. So in Form 2, January, I decided, well, I will not go to school. And then my parents could not tolerate seeing me there, because now I'm giving them more stress. Now this is a disappointment. I'm mtoto ameacha shule. Now that means now this problem after problem, and people are like laughing at us. My mother would work in any shamba around all our neighbors. They would give them even work to clean clothes and all that. And back then in the village, you know, in village, rarely will you find people doing the cleaning work, because it looks easy in the village. So rarely will you find someone doing that. But my mother would be given any sort of work.
Okay. Before we go there, do you think the caning and the punishment you got there helped? Because I understand now the system have changed. There's no caning in schools. So do you think maybe the punishment helped?
Yes, the punishment helped. Actually, I do feel more was done by both teachers and parents. At some point, I do feel, I wish my parents noted earlier that things were not okay, because even at some point, I stopped going to church, and it was not a big issue to them. But during that early stage, if they noted the problem, they could have been able to help me, like ensuring I'm going to church, ensuring I'm going to school in time, ensuring I'm doing homework. They look at my report form and books and all that. Also, I wish my teachers were keen to help me even not connect to these guys. Now, because of the peer influence, you know, I'm a Form 1, being influenced by some criminals in Form 3, and now we are very committed that every other time we were together, and everyone in school knew these are criminals. Now, tolerating this Form 1 to move around with the criminals, definitely someone should have been quick to help me out and to mentor me through. So there was the issue of mentorship. I ended up in the wrong hands, and so it was very easy to be initiated now to another level of of crime. Okay. Yeah.
Now you are dropout. What next?
Now, that's now where things now changed very fast. My parents, actually, I remember my mother crying. That's a way, and I don't know how it happened, but immediately I dropped. I decided I was not going back to school. 3 of my friends also decided. Hata Steve aliacha shule, so they also decided we are not going to school. And that's what happened to them, and their parents also are okay. Nika nyumbani hata school fees ako. So when my mother cried, I realized I'm a disappointment now. So I can't be here. Actually, she told me, "Hautaka hapa, hujui mahali utaka." And I decided, well, okay. So the following day, I went to Nakuru town. So I was just trying to look for something to do, kibarua. I thought it was very easy. Once you land in town, there is money for you.
Yeah.
So when I went to town, the first day it was hard. I had some money, not really. I would wait. There's those matatu face me, and with 10 shillings, you could go to town. Unashika chuma na mayama unapanda huko juu kwa roof. So that's how I went to town 2 days. Then the third day, nikabaki town. So nikaanza kubeba beba. Maybe somebody is shopping. Mom, wacha nikubebe. You're given 20 shillings, 10 shillings. But then at night you realize, where am I going? So I started connecting with some young men. You give them 10 or 20 shillings, they will protect you na unalala kwa master huko.
Okay.
And then later on I realized, days later, weeks later, now I'm a street boy.
For how long did you stay in the street?
I was in the streets for 4 years. And for those 4 years, there were different levels in the street. I started not exactly as a chokora, but you know, there are street men who are not really chokoras. They survive. They look hardworking. Some even are conductors, but they spend their nights in the street. Okay. So that's how I started. And during this point, again, I met some guys. I remember one was Mose and another one was Jackto. They got a hold of my hand only to lead me into crime. So severally we were involved in robbery. I remember there was a time we robbed a Mhindi supermarket just next to Pecas. Okay. And fortunately, we were able to go with the things and sold them. Another time we robbed a kinyozi. But now that time, we robbed a certain woman next to Mall Line booking office. And we were seriously dealt with by the mob. Seriously beaten. Some of the guys were really injured. But for me, you know, I looked very innocent, very young and innocent. So people like, oh, kijana, toka hapa, you know, they are wanakuchapa na huruma and trying to talk to you. Sasa wewe, hawa watakutuma uliwe, you know. And fortunately, I was not injured, but nilipigwa vizuri viboko.
At this point, how old were you?
Well, I think I was around 17. Okay. Yeah, for Inform 2, that's 17. All right. 16 or 17 years. Okay. Yeah. And so there's that level. Then the other level, I started knowing how to make money in town. So I'd go in the main market, the Nakuru Wakulima market, and I would pretend I'm doing window shopping, kitungu and all that, with a heavy jacket. Hey, kitungu nauza aje? So naeka vitungu kwa mfuko. So I'll go out with the jacket full of vitungus, then come back again, another bunch. So with that, I would supply kitungu to a certain mama wa Githeri, and I would get lunch, free lunch. I would supply again to another one and get free dinner. I started surviving that way. I still in the market, supply to women who cook Githeri, and they will give me free meals. But now, going on, I graduated now to another level where we started now dealing with the drugs again. So because I knew where we used to get drugs back in the village, I would be used to go buy drugs and supply in the CBD, Nakuru town, and Bondeni. In Bondeni, next to the mosque, there was a guy who hosted me and was a drug dealer. Sometimes I go to spend my nights there, so I was supplying to him. Sometimes a lot of drugs, and no one would realize.
Was it only at this time now you're in the street?
Yeah.
Is it only bangi or there are other drugs?
I would say the main one was bangi because I knew where it's coming from. Okay. Like now, most of the time people will use bangi because it's a bit cheap compared to cocaine and the others. Only once was I used to supply. Someone sent me to supply some drugs to Kiamunyi, somewhere Kiamunyi there. And the guy is a rich person. You know, you are sent to a certain family only to realize it's like a millionaire. Unaenda kupeleka madawa huko. Wow. Yeah. And
so they are using the children from poor families.
Yes.
To traffic. Hata yezi kuwa na baraka.
Na unapata what you would get out of it's lunch. Unanunua lunch, not even money. It's just 20, 50 shillings, but you've carried drugs worth hundreds of thousands. In any case, you may not realize the worth. And you know, when you look unkept, even the police will not suspect this guy is carrying drugs.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes even you carry them with a bag and no one will realize.
Now, Steve, at this point that you're in the street, did you ever thought that one day things will be better and you will have your own businesses?
Now, there's something I realized in the streets. And up to today, sometimes I look at how things have been happening. You see, when you have a prayerful parent, they may not be able to always be there to guide you and to talk to you. And in that age, most of the young people don't value the advice from the parents. At our age, anything your mom or dad tells you, it makes sense. Sometimes even you want them to call you and advise you. But at that age of teenagers, you feel like ananiambia nini. But now one of the best investment a parent can do is to pray for you. Wherever you are, your mother, your father is praying for you. Those prayers, the grace of God will ensure you covered. Now, when I was in the street, there was still something telling me, you're different from these people. And even when we go to club, I will go into Coco Savannah. Immediately I get to the club, I'll go somewhere, sometimes even kneel and pray. Thank God, thank you God, please protect me. Wow. And that time, the issue of Al-Shabaab, there were two guys who had come to the country with guns. I can't remember their names. So there was that fear, like an attack. Anytime there would be attacks in clubs. So I was like, Mungu, protect me. Hata nisigongwe na chupa, because we used to fight with botros in clubs. Then in the street, sometimes we would go to do wrong. Sometimes I remember there's a time really pickpocket mama. You remember hizo sweater kubwa mama alikuwa anavaa na zilikuwa na mifuko. So unaingiza, unachomoa nkachifu imefunga pesa. Going something told me, haufai kumnyaganya pesa. Do you know, I went back, nikashindwa kumpatia, nikarudisha kwa mfuko. Sasa nilitoa hapa ndani, nikaweka kwa mfuko ya hapa. Nikamfuata, nikarudisha. Because something is telling you you're doing the wrong thing. So even in the streets, there was always something telling me, you're different. So I would go, if there is a crusade, for example, in is it Nyayo Stadium? There's a park in Nakuru, just along Kenyatta Avenue. When there are crusades, I would go there, just sit and feel you belong here. I'm a street boy, but I belong here. So I would go, when I see a nice or well-dressed man, maybe driving, sometimes I'll like, one day I'll be like him. So if I see a good car, I would go, naekelea mkono hiyo gari, siku moja nitakuwa na gari kama hii. But I'm still in the street. Okay. Sometimes I would encourage the other young men. Siku moja tu tutamake it. So I used to tell them, tutamake it, tutakuwa watu wakubwa. And so though I was in the street, something was telling me, you don't belong here. But I think it's because somebody was busy praying for me.
Great. Now we'll have to go for a short break. So now still, after 4 years in the street, what made you now decide to go back home?
Now, the way it happened, it was again, all I can say, God directed things to happen. I started feeling I need to go back home. No one came to look for me. Like somebody persuaded me. I decided to go back home. So I went home, met my mom and dad. Actually, they were looking at me like, sasa wewe, umetoka wapi? Ona vile unakaa unatuaibisha huko. And they were just negative. And they were like, we don't need you here.
So for the 4 years, no one came to look for you in the streets?
No. But once in a while, I would go home. Like nena napitia, like umetoka wapi? Then all of a sudden they don't know nimerudi wapi. So after several weeks I would show up and then go back to the streets. But in the street there was a cousin to my dad who was selling tomatoes. So she would always take care of me. Once in a while ananiona, ananiongelesha. But she was not hard. She was like showing me love without criticizing me, without showing me you're doing a mistake, but she's there encouraging me. Like one day, tafuta pesa, start a business. At some point, she called me. She was selling tomatoes, and she gave me a space to sell onions. And she gave me even capital to buy onions and started selling them. But still, I would go, do my drugs. I come after 2-3 hours, then all of a sudden I'm gone. But she was always there showing me love. So there was this time I met a guy called Joseph Minor, on a Sunday morning. Very in the morning, something told me, go home, go say hi to your parents. So I walked from Nakuru town, and to Moronyi is quite a distance. So I walked. Now, around Moronyi town, I met Joseph, and he told me, 20 church. It's like, church. You know what he told me? There are ladies. Kuna madem church yetu warembo sana. It's like, then I need to go to that church. It's Deliverance Church Moronyi. So a friend of mine dragged me to church, but told me, kuna madem. Yeah. So I went, sat at the back, looking funny. So everyone was like, who's that guy? Who jamaa amechomoka wapi? And like, I looked, oh, this is a nice church. They are singing well. By the way, they are nice ladies and all that. But in the process of praise and worship, something changed inside me. There was that fear. There was now being condemned. Naanza kujikondemn. I should be like these people. Look at me. I look funny. Hata watu wanaonekana nataka kuwapora. Then there was this Reverend Elijah Mwangi who was preaching. And he was preaching from the book of Isaiah, that arise and shine, for your light has come. And something started telling me, now arise, your light has come. It's now your time. You know, by the time he was concluding the sermon, I was in front. Nimeinua mkono nataka kuokoka. So I gave my life to Christ, not being persuaded to go to church. Things just happened. Not being persuaded to give my life to Christ. Just there's that love, and God now, the Holy Spirit talking to me. So nikaenda nikaokoka, but still they were not taking me seriously. So even the pastor alikuwa like, tumpigie makofi, then kaa chini, because like, huyu haezi okoka. Even the people there were not very sure. And after church, I left. But from that day, everything changed. My perspective, my thinking, everything changed. And I made a decision. I'm a new person, and I'm a new being. So I immediately from that day, I said no to the streets. Okay. That day, I said no to the way I looked. By then I had dreadlocks by then. So I shaved my dreadlocks that week. I started now persuading my parents na kaa nyumbani naosha vyombo na fagia nje to make them feel, at least to own me back. And with time, my mother was quick now to embrace me, but my dad was always, maybe he's here for something, anataka cause scandal hapa. So they were just very keen on what I'm doing. So that's the point when I changed after giving my life to Christ. And I was able to stop every habit I was doing. I changed my character. I changed my dress code, my friends, everything. And I became this humble young man who was always at home. Akipea ng'ombe chakula. We would go to, every evening, we'll go to church for new converts classes. Nika attend zote for 2 weeks. Then I started 2 weeks training to be baptized. Nikakuwa baptized. And that was, I gave my life to Christ on 3rd August 2003. It was at noon. I don't remember. 3rd August 2003 at noon. Deliverance Church Moronyi.
Up to date.
Up to date.
Great. Now, at what time did you go back to school after wasting 4 years?
Yeah.
When did you, and how did you go back to school?
Now, immediately I gave my life to Christ, I realized something now came to my mind. Where are your age mates? So all of them some were in the university, they cleared school, they were in the university, others were doing business, others were doing well in whichever level they were in. Then in the church, almost all youths were busy doing something. Either you are in school doing very well, you are in either high school, college, university. And so the friends I connected with immediately I gave my life to Christ, they were all ahead of me and doing well. So the only option I had was to do well also, because all my friends, all people surrounding me are achievers. They are doing something. And so I connected with very positive friends, and I decided and desired I want to be like them. And because all of them academically, they were doing well, they were in the universities and colleges, I decided for me to be where they are, there's something I should do. That's now go back to school. Unfortunately, still there were problems at home. My sisters now were in high school going through difficult problems. At some point, somebody had my sister join boarding school in Goshen. So we went to visit her. unfortunately, there was nothing to take to her. So I was given 20 shillings. That was, I think, 204, 20 shillings by a neighbor and a thermos of tea. So I went to visit her with 20 shillings and a thermos of tea. You can imagine the embarrassment and all that. And during this time between August and December, so I was in the process of soul searching. Now ile tunaita kujitaka mkutano. How do I now shift from I've wasted 4 years? How do I recover this? What do I do? My parents started looking for a job, mari naweza pata kibarua. There's a man who was hiring young men, fundi wa viatu, and he said he would give me a job by January. That was from now around September to, so he told me January ukuja ndakupatia kazi tushonage viatu na wewe. And I was looking forward to this big opportunity now. But again in the process, something came to me, go back to school. And I decided I'll go to Anesta Boys. Remember, I was in school performing poorly. Last, that's an E-student. Then you drop out of school for 4 years. You are engaged in drugs and all that. Now you are going back to school. An E-student ambaye amekaa kwa street, if there was a D or F, angekuwa sasa F student huko. But now the grace of God, you know God is a great God. He changed things if you just surrender to him. So this a few months to December, nikaanza kibarua. So I would raise some money. I managed to get 5,000. So this 5,000, I went to Nakuru town, bought uniforms using 3,000, and I was left with 2,000. But I had purpose, I'll go to Anesta. I've not gone to look for the school, but my faith have told me, by faith, you'll join this school. So in January, okay?
Steve, so you bought school fees without admission letter?
Yes, faith.
Power of faith.
And you know, I bought 5 shirts. 5 shirts, a sweater. No, I didn't buy a sweater. Somebody gave me a sweater. And I bought 2 trousers and a pair of shoes and a bag, belt and all that. And I was ready. But I've not gone to seek for admission.
Wow.
And I gathered a lot of books from people who were in Anesta before, books for Form 1 and Form 2, and I believed I'm going to join Form 2 by faith. So when I went to school, they told me, you know, you don't have any evidence that you were in Form 1, you have to join Form 2. So they told me, go to your former school, then you come with a letter. So I went to Bavuni, where I left school 4 years ago. When they tried to look for any evidence I was there was nothing at all. There was nothing. And then the headmaster told me, go to Honesta school, talk to the secretary, tell her I'm the one who have sent you. So when I went there, I didn't know the secretary there was the wife to this headmaster.
Okay.
So I went like, I've been sent to you now with a lot of courage, not knowing I'm talking to the director of the school also. Like I've been told to come by Mr. Gatimo. You help me. Oh, okay. So what do you have then? She told me, okay, report to school tomorrow. We get Form 2.
Wow.
Can you imagine? No interview, and all the other guys were going through very serious interview. And when joining that school, you are forced to repeat. It was mandatory. But for me, I did not repeat. Just something came. God intervened. So it's like he blinded them. So it's like, just join. Kesho kuja ingia class. And I paid the 2,000 shillings I had. And that's where life started. But very funny. You're from the streets, in the uniform. You're trying to relate, to humble yourself. It looked funny. Like a teacher comes in class, unasimama. So I would laugh. Unasimama, I'd laugh. Like, now what am I doing? Kukibia. It looked funny.
Yeah.
Some teachers would, you know, a good teacher will tell this guy psychologically there's a problem with this person. So few teachers were quick to note there's a problem. But now because I was not sharing my story, so most people didn't get to know what was happening to me.
Now, I remember there was a time, you said there was a time you used to score 0 in physics, 0 in mathematics. Now you're in Form 2. How will you catch up the work for Form 1?
Again, when I gave my life to Christ, I became a very prayerful person. And I knew how to apply faith. I knew nothing is impossible with God. So when I joined school, I was joining school a university material, and there's in my small room at home, you know, the way in the villages, in the cubicles, you put a lot of newspapers around, you stick them on the wall,
And the success
and
cards.
success cards, and also the old books. There's the way we could cut them and hang them on the roof. So I wrote somewhere Dr. Steve MBUGUA, and then I wrote there Busara. I didn't know Dr. Okay, I thought probably I would become a medical doctor, and also there I wrote Busara, and I went back to school. So every time when I'm in class, I knew I'm not an ordinary student. I'm this Dr. Mbugua, Busara, but I didn't know what Busara would become. So I started school. It was hard, trying now to understand this physics and all that. So what I did, I would spend all my time studying. So in the morning when other students are doing other things, I'm busy studying. When it's short breaks, afadhali nikazwe, you're not going even for a short call. You're there studying. During the breaks, others were going for break. I would be left in class studying. Then during the lunch hour, sometimes even I would avoid the meals. I felt like, do I need to spend 45 minutes or 1 hour eating? So I will spend my time studying. Also during games time, I would be there studying. The school was mixed day and boarding. So on Saturday, we would go to school up to 1 p.m., but I would be left around up to 7 p.m. just studying. When other students, the boarders are there cleaning and playing, I'm there studying. Then on Sunday, I would go to church. Immediately after church, around 1, I would go to school, study up to evening. So I utilized my time. But again, the problem started. I paid 2,000 school fees.
Wow.
My parents didn't have anything. And the day I reported, when I came back home, that's when it hit them. You mean ulikuwa serious unarudi shule? Now there was confusion. Actually, my mom cried again. Like, what do I do to my son? My father was like, oh, no, akanyamaza tu. So, the following week, again, I was sent home for school fees. But there's no money at home.
Yeah.
My mom gave me 200 shillings. That is in 2 or 4 January. 200 shillings. I went with it. That was on Monday. Then on Friday, I was sent back home again. There was nothing. I reported on Monday. I was sent home. I was given 100 shillings by my mom. Then the same week when I was sent back home again, I told now the owner of the school, just listen. I came from the street, so I gave them my story. And if you send me home again, there's no money, I'll go back to the street. Just tolerate me. One day, wazazi watapata pesa. Just give, kuna kanjao kalikuwa hapo. Give us some time. The one that it grows up, we will sell it. Then she didn't talk to me. She told me, toka, enda kwa class. Because she wondered now, how do I help such a man? And so that Friday, I realized there were some young men who are doing work studies. They are studying there, but during the weekend, wanapewa kibarua shule. I requested the director, and she told me, from Saturday, you'll be working here. So on Saturday, when other people are studying, sisi tuko tunafanya mjengo and all that, na kuchimba choo shule and all that. So that's how I survived for those 3 years. I remember there was this time, when was it? The first term, when school closed, we decided now, the director told me, when the school closes, you'll be here working the whole period of time. So every day I would report to work, and then when the school opened, they would give me a receipt for all the days I've worked, and probably give me 700 shillings for pocket money. Nanunua kiatu, maisha ikaendelea.
That is how you paid the school fees for the 3 years.
Yes.
So how was the performance after the hard work?
Now, again, when we started, it was tough for me because Anesta is a good performing school. Most of the students there, they know what they are doing. So I started from E. So I remember getting 12% in physics, Kiswahili, about 22% to 1% there. So it was tough for me, but I worked so hard that every other term I improved. So I started from E, D minus, distant. There was no any point where I went down or stagnated. So from the time I joined the school, I would improve every term from this grade to this grade. Now there was a problem of self-esteem again. Now remember when we closed schools, day scholars would, boarders would go home the following day. Now, so the following day when boarders are going home, I'm there doing Mjengo in that school. On Saturdays, I'm in that school doing Mjengo, so boarders would see me there. So that means they start the way they are treating you. So you, most people wouldn't want to associate with me. So again, it gave me a room to work on myself because you don't have a lot of friends. So the time others are spending with their friends, you are spending with your best friend, who is your books. So books were my best friends. I would study so hard. I would utilize the teachers and also the guys who are ahead, the Form 4s and Form 3s. Most of the Form 4s who are had, but you know, done their KCSE before, and then they came back, they repeated. You know, they are a bit serious with the life. So all of them, I would make them my friends. So they would guide me. I'm in Form 2, they're in Form 4. Remember, back then, before I had dropped out of school, the Form 3s would lead me to bad habits. I was connected to the wrong friends who messed up my life. Now I'm here, now choosing now the right friends who help me become the best person. So in Form 2, I went from E, D minus, distant, C. Now by the time I'm in Form 4 first term, I was now around B minus and B stand. In my mock, I got B minus.
Wow.
And then in my KCSE, I got an A minus. Wow. So it just happened. There was no any time I went down or got the same grade for this semester, this time and next term. I ensure there's always progress from this level to this level. And one way I handled it is the power of prayers. Before starting my studies, I would pray to God, dear God, help me in my studies, give me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Now, then after that, I will go to my studies. I remember in my KCSE, I would study at night. Maybe we are studying for biology paper. So I would go at night, pray, God guide me even into the right topics. Then God, I'll find myself being taken to study this, go sleep. In the morning when sitting for the exam, the exact topics I covered, they're there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, let's tell us about now the transition from the bad boy they know to now a performer.
Yes.
And now there's life between joining campus and after KCSE results.
Okay. Now there's this bad boy who had really messed up his life. And by the grace of God, he realizes himself. He goes back to the parents, asks for forgiveness and acceptance, give his life to Christ, and decides to go back to school. You see, no one is influencing me. No one is holding my hand. It's about taking responsibility of my life. I decided enough is enough. If my life has to mean anything or something, I'm the one to make it happen. So I decided I'm going for it. I'll achieve, I'll be a great person, and this will happen. At some point, when I went back home, several neighbors were not even greeting me. You would meet a certain neighbor, habari ya mama fulani, and she would pretend you've not talked. After passing, akifika pale hivi, you realize now she's looking at you.
You're already a suspect.
Yeah, and they just hated me. Yeah, I mean, like, who is this guy? Just a reckless young man. Of which all of them, any woman who mistreated me that time, who just downlooked me and all that, today at some point they have called me to talk to their sons because I'm a book they read. They remember how they were treating me and they saw me changing. It's not that any person took me to the school, provided school fees. Even for the school fees, I had to look for ways. I had to work in the school. the shame and all that, you just put it aside. This is my dream. I want to be this person. And I worked towards it completely. And it was not a surprise for me to get the A minus. I knew I'm going to the university. I was very sure about it. Now, this day, the last day after in Form 4, I realized the boarders had privileges. They were studied at night. They were studying at night. There were teachers sometimes at night. So, and because there was no money to board, I talked to a friend called Marcel Ayanga. He was a boarder. I told him, what if I started spending my nights here? We share your bed. And we agreed, yes, you can hide yourself. So what will be happening, I'll be studying from 9 p.m. to midnight. Come sleep, wake you up, you go sleep, you go study up to maybe 3 a.m. or 4, you come wake me up. So there's no way we will share the bed, but we'll be using the same bed. And so that's what I did. Okay. So illegally, I became a boarder. The management didn't realize I was a boarder, but I was there studying, just behaving like a boarder, just to get the best out of it. Now, the last day when we cleared KCSE, I decided to go thank the management of the school. So I went to the Madam Gatimo, and told her, you know, I've come to say thank you because you allowed me to study in this school. At some point, I remember twice she gave me money to go shave. I couldn't afford even money to shave. Several times she gave me biro pens. The first sweater, because when reporting to the school, I was given an old sweater by somebody. The first new sweater, she's the one who gave me. She looked at me like, come to my office. She gave me a new sweater. So that day I went to thank her because of allowing me. Not that they were paying for me, but the fact that they allowed me to work in the school to raise school fees. And she looked at me like, of all the people, we have supported a lot of people, but you're the only one who have come to thank us. And it's not because we helped you that much. I had my clearance form with I had a balance of 22,000, and my plan was I'm through school. From tomorrow, I'll be working to clear this balance. She told me, let me have your clearance. She looked at it and she signed here. There, cleared. She cleared my balance. Ikaisha hivyo. And you know, something told me, go thank her. What if I didn't go to thank her? Yeah, so being valuing gratitude, always be thankful, even to God. Thank people. Just going to thank her, it cleared my 22,000 school fees.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, did you join campus immediately?
Yeah. Now, in those years, you join campus about 1 year, 6 months later. So we did our KCSE in 2006. And immediately after, the school still allowed me to work there, to do mjengo. And but immediately we did our KCSE, I went for this Kenya Student Christian Fellowship. They normally have camps, so I went for 4 days camp. Then from there, I went to Mizpah Prayer Center. I fasted for 7 days. And these 7 days, I was just praying God for my destiny, not praying for my tomorrow. I'm thanking God for this far. I was very sure I would join university, so I was praying God for money to join the university and my life after. Then I went back, I started working in the school. The day KCSE was announced, I was in Anesta Precious Girls. We were digging an underground tank. So we were inside the tank, about 10 foot down there. Then KCSE was announced. It was announced I was the 4th best student in Anesta. So even the boys came singing. They were told where I was. They came singing. And then the girls were surprised. You mean that guy who works here? He's a performer. So everyone was there singing, you know, and lifting me up, and there was celebration. And then, but the owner of the school wanted me to be a teacher in the school, but was feeling, you are not communicating. So one day, the owner, Mr. Gatimo, decided to fix me up. So he came, sat where I was, and he gave me a very difficult task to do. It was tough, it was drizzling, there was a lot of work. So he wanted to squeeze me until I feel I'm not supposed to be here. So that pressure really helped me. I was comfortable with Mjengo. Now, after I'm through the work, actually I was not able to stand well. I sat there. So he told me, MBUGUA, do you think this job is good for you? I told him no. And he told me, what do you want to do? I told him, I can do another job. He asked me, can you teach? Yes, I told him, yes, I can teach. Okay, tomorrow you go to Anesta Primary, go to the headmaster. Tell him I've sent you there. You go start teaching immediately. So the following day, I was a teacher. So I started teaching in Anesta Primary until now we reported to the university. For that 1 year that I was a teacher at Anesta Primary, it was now my time to encourage, to mentor young boys and girls. So I was not only a teacher, I was every other day, I was talking to them. I was a big brother. You know, I remember the day I told them, now from today onwards, I'll not be with you, I'm joining university. The whole school, kids were crying. Like, no, 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 you can't just leave us. And I remember I helped a lot of kids from this level to this level. Almost every kid who told me, I want to be this person in life, I've seen them become. Right. I remember one of them told me, I want to be a neurosurgeon. I was her class teacher and teaching her science. By then, she was scoring 48 in science. By the time I was leaving them, she was 100%, 98% there. There was not any time she scored less than 90% in science. Now, the last time we talked to her, she was in Kenyatta University pursuing medicine. There's another guy who was telling me, I want to be a military officer. And I used to encourage him. He became a scout. I encouraged him. One day I saw a message on Facebook. Hello, Mr. MBUGUA, this is Victor. I was your student. You remember you used to call me Mjeshi because I wanted to be a military. Today I'm studying military science in the US. Wow. So I encouraged them and motivated them. Then there was this time now to join university. I had saved some money. Then we called some neighbors and friends. They did fundraising and I joined the university. I went to Moi University, Eldoret, and pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Economics.
Great.
Yes.
Now, after now completing university,
Yes.
Did you get job immediately?
Still when joining university, there was something that was always telling me, you're not ordinary. You have to pursue a certain path that is unique. Yes, a lot of people are struggling getting jobs, but I want you to take a different path. I want you to concentrate on humanity, helping my people. So there was a voice telling me, go help people. Don't mind about money. Think about helping people. So when I joined university, I went and immediately joined voluntary organizations. So I joined St. John Ambulance, I joined Red Cross, I joined Peer Counseling Club, I joined all organizations that involved helping people. I joined all of them. And immediately I started volunteering, doing part-time courses on first aid, on guidance and counseling and all that, because my heart was just about helping. That time was 2008, and we had just gone through the post-election violence, so there was problem in the Rift Valley. So under St. John and Red Cross, we went counseling people in the village. Sometimes we could have blood donations. I would recruit, mobilize people to donate blood and all that. And it really helped me to embrace the value of humanity in service to mankind. And when we in the university, I still had problem with school fees, but I was prayerful. So I remember there was this time I applied for this CDF. Okay. I was getting help, but it was not enough. I was given CDF, but coincidentally twice. We don't know which mistake they did, but they sent money twice to me in a way that doesn't happen. So it was able to cover my first year school fees. Now during the long holiday, I did computer packaging, but I was volunteering with St. John Ambulance so much in the streets and all that. I went in second term. Again, for the second year, some money was channeled to my account in a way that when I asked the finance office, they told me they cannot trace who sent the money, but they told me, unajisumbua na nini? Pesa imeingia kwa account yako. Wewe soma. But up to today we don't know, because I had not talked to anyone. Just God did his own style. That's how I survived. Now in my third year, long holiday, Equity Bank advertised for opportunity for all these people who had cleared university and they're looking for some work. They had started a program called MKSHO. So people had to apply. But it was a third year. I just applied. I was called, not for an interview, but for the training. And I was given an assignment by Equity Bank for about 6 months for the long holiday. And actually I extended it. I was able to raise school fees for my 4th year. So in the university, I had enough money even to pay school fees for my elder brother who was doing journalism back then.
Wow.
And also I did a lot of volunteer activities in the whole of Eldoret that most people, I remember the deputy vice chancellor asking me whether I'm employed by Red Cross, because I was so much dedicated that I didn't look like a student. I was doing much more than a student, but it's because there was that heart to help mankind, to help humanity. Then when I cleared the university, I was clearing to go volunteer. My heart was committed to go volunteer, to go help people. And so immediately I cleared university. This following week, I was just going in schools, high schools, primary school, talking about first aid and talking about volunteering. Then a month later, St. John Ambulance Kenya advertised for a position for a trainer, first aid trainer. I didn't see it, but somebody called me. There's a position for St. John and you qualify. I didn't have money to go to town and I'd apply because I had to go to a cyber. He sent me 100 shillings and he was a jobless. He was looking for a job. So I went, applied for a job without looking at the requirements. Now, the requirement was you must have studied medicine or public health or disaster management with 5 years experience, and at least you should have masters in any of the field. I've done Bachelor of Arts Economics. I've not graduated. I don't have papers that time, but I applied. I was shortlisted and called for an interview.
Faith and favor again.
Faith and favor. And when I went for the interview, the hall was full of people in suits. They looked nice, they looked experienced, but I got the job.
Wow.
I was underqualified without any document that would support any of them, even minimum requirement, but I got the job. Yeah. So I was employed by St. John Ambulance as a first aid trainer. But immediately I was employed, I committed myself that I will only work for 3 years or train 10,000 people, whichever will come first, then resign. So I started working and training seriously. Within the first 6 months, I was promoted into a training and development officer. Then the second year, I was promoted to be an assistant training manager. And then the third year, I became the training manager. St. John Ambulance, the biggest department is training department. So as a training manager, the only position above you is a CEO.
Wow. So Steve, for how long did you work as the manager?
I worked as a manager for about 1 year and 2 months, almost 3 months. But when joining the organization, I had committed myself. I worked for either 3 years or train 10,000 people, whichever will come first, I resign. So by these 3 years, I had achieved more. I had trained about 15,000 people. I'm a manager, so I've accomplished much. So I decided to resign. So I gave them good time, about 2 months, so that I clear. In case there's anything, I'll serve. So I didn't resign ile tu kimadharau. No, you communicate good time in case of anything. I'm here to help. Actually, even up to today, I still go there to share my time and all that because it's a good organization. It nurtured me. Then when I resigned, I had just been married. We had a kid about 8 months old. Then by the time we were living in Githurai 45, life became tough. I thought because I was a training manager, I had networks. You know, I had gone to all the big companies in this country. Name them: Central Bank, Kenya Rail, Kenya Ports Authority, Brookside, Bidco. They all knew me. All the safety managers knew me. Now, so I knew because of these networks, I start my training company. They would just come, all of them. So I started my company, but it surprised me. You call them, you know, now I've left St. John. I'm now I have a new company called Makinika Africa. Bring the trainings. Oh, we'll talk. Oh, okay, we'll talk. Now they will never talk to you again. So it became hard. We survived as a family. There's nothing happening. You wake up, your wife is there. There's no food. We cannot, even when your mother calls you, send me 500, we have this problem, I was not able to help. Now, at some point, that things became so tough that my parents at home had to sell a piece of land, a plot, to support me. So I started a shop in Githurai, a boutique, a very big boutique. Unfortunately, one day it was robbed. Everything. We wake up in the morning, even they stole even the dustbin, even the county government permit, they pluck it out, everything, and they carried it. So it was tough for us, but still God was sustaining me in a way. Once in a while, I would get a call, come talk to our house girls on safety. I would get 500 shillings, I would get 1,000 here and there. So we would survive in a way. But I started praying seriously, reminding God. There was this doctor, Steve MBUGUA, Busara, remember that, help it come to be. And I started working hard on Facebook. I started talking to people, encouraging people, sharing about safety. And then all of a sudden, companies started calling me. We have seen an article you've written on Facebook about safety. Can you disseminate that to our staff? Do you know I was called even by General Service Unit, GSU. And I started training the GSUs only because of something I wrote on Facebook. There's even the Reke group in Roiro. It's a very unique setup, but I would go there to talk to them. But they had realized also I like encouraging them. So they would tell us, after training, encourage these people. They are stressed up. When they go to Bonnie Forest and all that, they come here stressed up. So after training them, get time and talk to them, encourage them. And it started now opening ways for them. One day I get this call from Inoro TV. We have seen an article you've written on safety. Can you present that in our TV? And now from there, I've been appearing at Inoro TV, Dagetare Show, a lot of times, Kimori, Family TV, Citizen TV. Once in a while, I'll be there talking about safety. So things started opening up, but it's because I'm still focused. And I did not give up. I started using what I have. I have a phone. I'm accessing Facebook. Good. I can write articles on Facebook, and people will see and call me. Now, then I went and started opening other companies in different sectors. And today, by the grace of God, I have a number of companies, and I've employed quite a lot of young people. Now, there was that Dr. Steve MBUGUA. At some point, I tried to pursue masters, then I pursue doctorate, but I realized there was a lot that needed to be done. So I enrolled in a master's program in KU to study occupational safety and health, but there were some changes all of a sudden because there was no quorum in the town campus, so we were told all of us have to study from main campus. It couldn't work well for me, so I decided to stop it. But now, I pursued the line of safety so much that I started even training doctors and nurses. Remember, this is an economist who is very passionate, but now he is risen in a place where now he's training doctors. And now people started calling me Dr. Steve MBUGUA. So that Dr. Steve MBUGUA, even though I didn't become the medical doctor, now I'm training even doctors and nurses and clinical officers on the area of safety, emergency preparedness and response.
Great. Now, can you let us talk about you meeting First Lady?
Okay, thank you. Now, there was this time I had just resigned from St. John, and I'm preparing now what next. Now, there was a big event happening at KICC. Now, you see, I've resigned, so I'm not supposed to do anything for this organization. But now they called me, just come. Then that morning, they started having pull and push. You're the one who will make the presentation. You're the one who will make the presentation. And then they agreed who will do the presentation. But now at the KICC, remember now I left the organization. I had started my company, Makinika Africa. So I'm just there kama tu mgeni wa kawaida. Then they are part of safety. There's no one to talk about because even the person who was to do it has shied off. So it's like, Steven, unaweza tusaidia? So I told them, as long as now I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it on my behalf. And I'll decide what I'll share. So I stood and I made a presentation. You know, I didn't have time to prepare. It's just an opportunity that shows up. But because I'm passionate, I had something to say. So I stood up and I talked about safety and majorly on why first aid should be introduced in the primary school curriculum, so that if your kid and my kid and another kid knows how to manage nose bleeding, choking, we would be saving a lot of people, how to take care of a person with epilepsy and all that. And you know what happened? When making the presentation, it touched the first lady so much. Back then, Governor Kidera was there. He was the governor then. Senator Sonko was there. There was the minister, the cabinet secretary for health was C.S. Macharia. He was there, and a lot of other senior person, ambassadors. So when making my presentation, I tell you at some point, everyone stood and clapped. And then when the first lady stood up, she said, now, this young man is the ambassador of safety.
Wow. And
like everyone felt like he's the ambassador of safety. So from that day onwards, I became the ambassador of safety. So if you check on all my pages, is AMB Steve MBUGUA, ambassador of safety and wellness, just talking about safety. And now through that, I also got a chance to be invited to the State House. I've been invited 4 times now. Even there was a time I was invited as a Shujaa. So I got a card to attend the event at Nyayo Stadium, and then in the State House, I've met the president, I have met the deputy president, I've met different senior guys. I've toured the country because of this passion of safety. But again, there's about passion. When you pursue something you're very passionate about, this is a way nature will open ways for you. I was passionate about humanity and safety when I joined the university. But look now, I studied economics, but because of the passion area of my area of passion, it's now opening doors. And with that, I always like encouraging even the young people. Is that something you are very passionate about? It could be even videography, photography, it could be singing, it could be art, whatever it is. Just if you pursue it very well, you never know where it will take you.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you can give your parting shot to the parents and the street kids, or the youths who have lost hope, maybe briefly.
Thank you, Mary. Now, to the parents out there, some of the young people who get lost out there, the reason they do so is because there is a certain attention and affirmation that they don't get from the parents. You don't need to judge and criticize them harshly, but embrace them with love. Just guide them, whatever they want to do, guide them with love. Listen to them. Don't be so busy making money and then you lose your kid. You may end up using the money that you are looking for to take them to rehab and all that. Just spend your time with your kids, talk to them, understand what their fears, what they are going through in school, at home, what they are doing with their friends, and show them the love. And then accept them. Whichever weakness they have, just accept them. Let them feel like, I trust my parents, they understand me, they care for me. Always be there for your kids. Another thing, if you see any change of behavior, whichever it is, could be your kid all of a sudden keeps quiet, he's no longer talking to you, he's no longer that lively, or he becomes violent all over time, all at once, get to know what is happening. Sometimes take your kid out, go take coffee somewhere, go sit, talk, create that conducive environment. Let them talk out and don't judge them harshly, just hear them through. One day you'll celebrate what they will become and they will respect you for that. Again, for the young people out there, you have to take responsibility of your life. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame institutions, the government. Don't blame circumstances. Take responsibility of your life. I went to the streets, but no one came to rescue me. I rescued myself. I took responsibility, and I brought God in the circle. And now here I am. So it's about take responsibility of your life, pursue your dreams, pursue your passion, and trust God. God will guide you. Now, whatever thing that you desire to achieve in life, just have that deep desire. God says, the Bible says in the book of Psalms that delight in the Lord and he shall fulfill the desires of your heart. So just delight in the Lord and pursue that desire. He shall fulfill it. Just be very have just that thirst to achieve, that hunger to achieve, and start walking towards the direction of whatever you want to have or you want to be. And within a couple of time, there you will be, and you will celebrate your life.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve, for having time for us. And thank you so much, our viewers. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Maybe, Steve, you can share your details, maybe your email, your phone number, just in case there's anyone who would want to talk to Steve.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. My mobile number is 0724 036 078. I also am a blogger. You can read my blogs on ambassadorstevembugua.co.ke, or just Google AMB Steve Mbugua, whichever page, social media page, you'll get something that will can help you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks.